Send it down to Shocks for a word with EDG's victorious support.
Thank you very much, guys. Indeed, joined by Mako after EDG locking in their spot in the quarterfinals and beating out H2K. Let's first talk about this game that you guys really needed to win. How did you get the upper hand over H2K?
先让我们非常恭喜你这次战胜了H2K， 然后晋级了。然后我们先来讲一下你这盘是怎么获得的胜利，怎么获得的优势，然后把它转换成了一个胜利。
这一局的话，我们前期选择安妮跟那个蛤蟆的话，就是想要换线嘛，然后发育，然后打到中期的话，我们9桶、露露跟金克斯打团很强，所以前期就一直跟他们换线发育，然后打团我们比他们更胜一筹。
So they picked Jinx and Tomcat comp to just farm the lane and try to get an early game advantage. So they just keep farming and farming, and once they get into a team fight stage where they excel at, which they excel at basically, and they were able to pull out ahead and finally take over the game.
Indeed, strong team fights in this game. Let's step away from this game. You guys, as EDG, are one of the favorites for this whole tournament, yet your early games today against SKT, H2K, and BKT have been lackluster. How much of a liability is that going into the rest of the tournament?
就是比赛开始之前呢，我们觉得 EDG 是这个组最强的一个队伍之一。但是通过今天的几场比赛，我们发现你们的前期的游戏处理的不太好。你觉得这个你们前期的弱势会对你们以后的比赛有什么影响吗？
应该影响挺大的，因为我们前期换线处理的没有欧美队伍好嘛，然后所以今天就只能硬着头皮去对线，然后以后的话会把换线处理得更好，然后就会打得更好。
So actually, our week in the lane swap is actually pretty big, and so we are really trying to adapt to the new laning phase. But as for now, we're just trying to beat them in lane. So for the later matches, we'll try to improve on the lane swap, and hopefully we can get better.
That definitely is a working point for you guys. Just a couple of months ago, you triumphed over SKT at the mid-season invitational. How worrying is it for you that now in the group stage you weren't able to beat them yet, at least?
就在 MSI 的时候，你们战胜了 SKT， 但这次在小组赛中，你们目前还没有对他们取得过任何胜利。你觉得你们怎么面对这么个情况呢？你们怎么考虑这么个问题？
我觉得在小组赛遇到失败的话是可以接受的，然后我们就是会看到自己的短处嘛，然后就会慢慢去改进。我们会在决赛战胜 SKT 的。
Alright, so I think it's okay for us to lose in the group stage. At least we can find out where our weaknesses are, how to improve, and I think we can beat them in the finals.
All right, well, we'll see if that happens. Thank you very much, and congratulations for making it to the quarterfinal, Mako and EDG. Although there are some questions that still need to be answered. Back over to you guys.
Thank you, Shock, securing their second place seed into the bracket stage there, EDG. Avoiding that tiebreaker, very, very good by them. I want to start team comps. Specifically to you, Tabe, we saw the Malphite come through and this entirely protect the Jinx comp with the Tom Kench as well as the Lulu and the Gragas for the disengage. Thoughts on their pick ban phase this time around?
To be honest, I love the pick bans of EDG's this game because at first I suggest AJ to use Echo because we saw that he used it last game. But the thing is, I think Malphite is a really good pick. Why? Because we can see that he has a lot of support from his team this game. His team came over to top lane and helped him to destroy the second turret. And the second thing is, even he has a huge lead by Fiora of CS, he is making huge plays from his Malphite. For example, he forces the flash from Orianna, and after they have known that Orianna have flash CD, Kench ulted mid, and they're all in for Orianna. And the second thing is, I think, other than the Malphite pick, I think Deft is very good in picking Jinx, and he actually avoided laning against Kalista. This is a very crucial point because after we see they saw that they are in top lane, but he suddenly goes down to bot lane. He knows that he is no chance against Kalista in early game, and he bought Aphrodite's Blade very early, and he just farm and farm. And
Yeah.
it's very good.
Willing to concede that lane in order to make sure they don't match up in the 2v2. Coming over to you, Yamato, continuing somewhat on the picks and bans, I want to look specifically, though, at the Malphite and Fiora matchup, because I know you have a different opinion than Jat does as to who that benefits.
I reacted quite heavily on it simply because, like, in this game, as Tabe mentioned, there was a lot of lane swapping, and of course, Amazing J is going to fall behind on CS because of it. But the matchup against Fiora is pretty decent early game, but of course, Fiora scales better into the lane. But simply because Malphite has this opportunity to itemize armor, he's never going to get Doven. He's going to be fine always in this lane, and Malphite is something that is so good in team fights, and that is what EDG was aiming for in the end.
And I completely agree with that, and that's what I wanted to talk about. The Gragas Malphite pick, especially with how much farm they prioritize onto Gragas, means that they were always going to have double Frozen Heart earlier, which means Kalista is null and void in the mid game, and it is so hard to dive those two champions. The Gragas ult splits up the team as you go for a dive. It really mucks up Annie especially, and then you can never dive someone like Malphite. Good initiation is generally good anti-dive, and that is what EDG brought to this comp in spades. It was just so disruptive to be able to single out one target.
Now, it did take him a little bit to get to that point, though. What we did see in the early game was the prowess of the Western teams, the European and North American teams in the lane swap to pick up an early kill and build small advantages. But where did that all turn around? You got to look at Mako on support.
Yeah, you certainly do. Mako was just able to utilize Tahm Kench, move people around the map quickly with his ultimate in a couple of key team fights. And when you have this pressure, as you said, as soon as you burn a summoner spell, as soon as you take the turret, Mako can be anywhere and just pick up whatever he wants.
Yep, an easy kill picked up here on Ryu. This is the one that you were referencing, Tabe, just now. But as well, you know, throughout the game, this one too, to cut them off, just managing to separate H2K and put them into situations in which there is no good decision to make.
And once again, look at Hyanin. His only choices to attack in that team fight were Clear Love and then Amazing J. There is no way, as a Kalista who doesn't build crit, who had to go QSS, is going to be able to get out of these team fights by putting out the amount of damage that Def did, who was hitting a Fiora the whole time, who had double offensive items.
I'm just happy more teams are unclogging the frog because Tahm Kench is so powerful. I'm super happy to see more of it.
A very, very powerful champion, and to some degree is taking the place of Janna, being a beefier support that can still protect your AD carry and allowing Jinx to be played.
It's like the point you're making, I like it a lot, simply because melee champions tend to, like melee supports tend to be stronger in the early game, stronger in the early skirmishes, and that's where Tahm Kench shines, Alistar shines, and Braum shines, and that is the biggest reason why we see these melee supports coming in. They're just so tanky.
Yeah, they certainly are. And whilst, like, the last thing I want to hit on pick bans is we haven't seen a prevalence in Fiora, and I think this game shows why. In China, when they build Fiora, they go 40% cooldown reduction with 1 or 2 offensive items. If you're against a magic user, you go Black Cleaver. If you're against a lot of AD, which this team comp was because it was built around Def, you should go the Frozen Heart because 40% cooldown reduction actually means your Q does a lot of damage, and a lot of people underestimate the Q damage and the sticking potential. I feel if Odoamne was a little bit tankier in this composition, had gone with the Frozen Heart, he would have given Deft a lot more headaches. You saw in a couple of those fights, he could get on Deft, but then was immediately blown up.
Now, Tabe, lastly, I want to come to you. EDG has made it through to the bracket stages, and they have some time to work on some of the issues. They've identified for themselves that their lane swap and some of their early game seems to be their weakness. Specifically, how should this team, with very limited time, attack fixing those problems?
As you said just now, their lane swapping problem is very important. I said that this game, Amazing J has many support from his team, but we have to remember that it is after his first death. EDG is executing very poorly about lane swapping because we can see that Amazing J has died. Why? Because he tended to have, he wants to defend the turret, but he didn't know that he will die under 4-man dive. So I'll have to think maybe EDG's coach, Aaron, have to discussion with his teammates. Is it good for Amazing J to defend the first turret, or is it good to just go to lane with Jinx? Because Jinx is already avoiding to lane against Kalista, so let's farm together.
All right, well, we'll see if they can do just that. They've got some time, like we said. With that win, EDG have locked in second place in Group C and will advance with SK Telecom to the quarterfinals in London. So, gentlemen, looking at this group, we still have one more game to play today, but these top two teams were the ones we expected to go through. SKT looking in form as ever. EDG looking to struggle a little bit.
Well, to be honest, it kind of reminds me of MSI. EDG lost against SKT in the group stage and came back swinging and won the entire tournament, so I'm not too worried about EDG.
Yeah, I actually think that this tournament format is kind of strange for both SKT and EDG just because it's the amount of games they would normally play in 1 week. This is like 3 best-of-2s for EDG, so I'm expecting them in the best-of-5s to have the improvement that we're showing, but there certainly is weaknesses in their early game that they need to be able to capitalize on.
Best-of series are a whole nother animal, so different teams will have or find their strengths in that part of the tournament. There's just 1 game left to play out in Group C. When we come back, we'll see if Bangkok Titans can pull off an upset win over SKT. Our coverage of the 2015 World Championship continues in just a few minutes.
This is the last game everyone will remember of H2K from Worlds. Yeah, make it count. Hoip. Hoip. Hoip.
Hoip. Your Ryu's got a flash. Slow. Not bad. Gets caught by those flame choppers. Comes in. Timbers does work. Ryu throws a shockwave, but it's too late. Comes in. Is he close enough? Amazing J caught up a little bit. They're going to jump onto Yarden right away here. Yarden flashes away. Doesn't get CC'd. Going to pull in.
Okay, nice.
Needs one last fight. Amazing J goes in under Ryu. Ryu gets evaporated. Lulex running for his life. And Odoane can't participate. And in the end, H2K says, you have a win. And EDG says, go fish.